Good evening. Here it is, Sunday evening. We're finishing, well, got one more chapter next week of Daniel. Chapter 11 is not only a very long chapter, 45 verses, but it's also a chapter that I don't see any way anybody could ever just sit down and read their Bible and know exactly what this is talking about without a help from a whole bunch of different people. And that's where commentaries come in. So we left Daniel at the end of chapter 10 conversing with the angelic messenger, and the angelic messenger is continuing to talk in chapter 11. And at the time the messenger from heaven is telling Daniel this is 100% prophecy. It's all in front of Daniel. And it's going down through the centuries here until we get to the gap through where we're living now, and it takes it down to the very end. So prophecy becomes history eventually. All of it will, including the very end time, but it's still prophecy for us today. But much of this has been fulfilled, and so it puts chapter 11, like half the chapter's history already, and the other half is still out here in front of us. So it's kind of an interesting thing to sit down and study the historical part. You need a commentary to take you through it, and I'll kind of show you how it was fulfilled, like they can identify these people that the messenger was prophesying about so meticulously that it's astounding how accurate the prophecy really was. It's so accurate, as a matter of fact, that the liberals, theologians, they're called false prophets in the King James Version. They say, oh, there's no way that Daniel had to be written after all this stuff happened because it's just too exact. Well, we don't believe that. If we did, Daniel lied every chapter beginning when he said it's the first year of this king or first year of this king. So it was prophecy when it was spoke. And I'm going to take you through 5 or 6 verses here. And if you want to get a commentary and go through it meticulously and see who these people are and how it was all fulfilled so exact, you can. But then we're going to flip over to the end of the chapter and finish up with the prophecy here. So 11:1, the angel speaking, it says, also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, so even the angelic messenger dates exactly when this happened. Even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now I'll show thee the truth. And I said it this morning in my message. People get all confused and make ridiculous statements when they get too far away from the source of the truth, which the source of all truth comes from our Holy Bible. The messenger says, I'm going to show you the truth. Behold, there'll stand up yet 3 kings in Persia. The Persians are ruling now. There's 3 more kings going to come. And then the 4th Persian king will come. He'll be far richer than them all. And by his strength through his riches, he'll stir up against the realm of Greece. So remember the next empire we've been reading all through Daniel that was prophesied, and now we look back at history. After the Persians, after the Babylonians came the Persians, and then after the Persians became the Greece, the Greco-Macedonian Empire. And a mighty king shall stand up. That's Alexander the Great. We've seen about him already in here. And that will rule with a great dominion and do according to his will. And when he'll stand up, his kingdom will be broken. See, that's future when he was speaking it. Now it has been broken. And we look back in history and say it did get broken. And it was divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, east, north, west, and south. Remember when Alexander died as an alcoholic at the age of 30? It was divided up into 4 of his generals. And they took over his kingdom. And his kingdom will be plucked up even for others beside. And then verse 5 says, the king of the south shall be strong. Now, directions in the Bible are south, north, east, and west of Jerusalem, Israel, the land of Israel. So the south here, I think, is talking about Egypt. And the king of the south will be strong, and one of his princes, and he'll be strong above him and have dominion. His dominion be great dominion. Egypt's going to grow. And in the end of the years, they'll join themselves together for the king's daughter of the south. People smarter than me in history have identified that as that's nobody less than Cleopatra herself. Shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. And that's just kind of give you an idea how the history goes down through here. But chapter 11 is going to carry on through the lines of the history until we get over, past about around verse 30. We're going to pick up with 31 right here. because now we're moving from the historical part. It was all prophecy then, but now part of it's historical because it's already been fulfilled. But we're going to look over here the other way to the Antichrist, or the little horn that's been prophesied all through Daniel, and the end of the times here, the end of the age. And Jesus took this very section and expounded on it when his disciples asked him in Matthew 24, says, what will be the sign of you coming and of the end of the world? And he took this, and while some of it was historically fulfilled by Antiochus Epiphanes, who goes in and pollutes the temple and sacks Jerusalem. But Jesus still talked about it. See, that's before Jesus' time, but Jesus took that and put it out here way up in front of us at the end of the age. And so that was just our little preview. When something like that happens again, watch out. That abomination of desolation, Jesus said, watch out then. So let's pick up verse 31 of chapter 11. And arms shall stand on his part, military, and they'll pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that makes desolate. And that's looking back originally to Antiochus Epiphanes, who went in and slaughtered the hog and put pig blood on the altar and defiled everything and killed so many thousands of Jews when he was there, until the Maccabees took back over again. This is stuff that was happening in the 400 years between Malachi and Matthew. But let's also look at it with an eye to, hey, this is something that happened to them as a little microcosm. It's what's going to happen on a worldwide scale, still probably not too far in front of us. Verse 33. I skipped one, didn't I? Verse 32. And such as do wickedly against the covenant shall he corrupt by flatteries. Oh, a little horn, the Antichrist, will do these things. But, I don't know what all of it means, but some of it I can cling to. But the people that do know their God shall be strong and do exploits. They'll do great things. And they that understand among the people. See, I believe I can already see this starting, can't you? That you look at half the country now and you think, I can't even see how people think anymore. How can people be that far away from God and call that which is good evil and call that which is evil good? But there are a few people that still know what's going on. And they that understand among the people shall instruct many. Yet they'll fall by the sword and by flame and by captivity and by spoil for many days, because the Antichrist, he's going to persecute the church, right? Now, when they'll fall, they'll be holpen, or Old English, they'll be helped with a little help. I don't know what that means, but I think that God's going to give us some supernatural help, the way things have happened in the past. Remember when the Red Sea opened up, God helps you in ways that you don't expect. But many shall cleave to them with flatteries, and some of them with understanding shall fall, to try them, to purge, and to make them white. They washed their robes white in the blood of the Lamb. And this is, I think, verse 35, saying there's going to be Christian martyrs at the end, even to the time of the end, because it's yet for a time appointed. And the king, this is that Antichrist king, the worldwide dictator that's coming, is going to rule the whole world at the end, for a while, 3.5 years at least. The king shall do according to his will. He ain't going to be doing God's will. He's going to be doing his own will. And he'll exalt himself. He'll think he's the greatest thing that's sliced bread. And he'll magnify himself above every god. And he'll speak marvelous things against the God of gods. See, he'll be blaspheming our God. And he'll prosper for a while. And there's a big word there, till. He'll prosper till the indignation be accomplished, until that little brief period at the end is over with. One of the other prophets in the Old Testament says to God's people, says, come, my people, enter into the secret chambers until the indignation be overpassed. That's I remember using that verse. It's like back in 2020 when the pandemic was hitting. And that's kind of what it's going to be like. Hey, things are going to get so bad there for a while that we just got to really lay low, but it's going to pass. And then God's going to be magnified, and God's people's going to rule with him here on this earth. Till the indignation be accomplished, for that's determined, shall be done. Now, here's some interesting things we can be looking for about the Antichrist. We're always looking for the Antichrist, and people thought they have identified him a lot through history. If I'd been back in before World War II, I would have been prone to think it was Hitler, wouldn't you? But it wasn't him, because he's done come and gone. People have tried to name everybody. Who was it? Gorbachev had the birthmark on his head. People thought he was the Antichrist, But here's what you can know about him. Verse 37, we can be looking for these things. We don't know who it is, but we can be looking for these traits and say, that's an Antichrist trait. I'm going to keep my eye on him. He'll brag on himself. He'll think he's God. And verse 37, neither shall he regard the God of his father. That should be a little g. It's King James, my edition, anyway, they capitalized it. Which the God of his fathers is not our God either. The God of his fathers was the pagan gods, but he won't even regard them. Nor, here's something about him. Think of that. Nor the desire of women. I think he'll be a homosexual. I think that right there tells you that he won't have any desire for, he won't have any desire for women. Nor will he regard any God. For he shall magnify himself above all. As the New Testament says, he'll be declaring that he's God, sitting in the temple of God himself. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, a military God of some kind, a God whom his fathers knew not. Shall he honor with gold, silver, precious stones, and pleasant things? Ultimately, it's the devil that he's honoring. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory. He'll glorify that dark God, the false God. And he shall cause them to rule over many, and he'll divide the land for gain. And at the time of the end shall the king of the south, maybe that's Egypt coming up again, push up at him. And then the king of the north, that's right, if you draw a line straight north from Jerusalem, I believe you'll hit Moscow. So that's Russia coming down. They'll come against him like a whirlwind with chariots and horsemen with many ships, a whole military fortress coming, everything they've got going to throw at him. And it'll overflow and pass over. And he'll enter into the glorious land. Now, the glorious land in the Old Testament, that's the land of Israel. And many countries will be overthrown. Remember that Daniel's already told us the prophecy that there'll be 10 kingdoms ruled by 10 different leaders, 10 kings. But then there'll be some kind of, the coalition falls apart, and then there's 4 takes over from them, 6 of them subdued. And then out of that 4, he said that's that one final one, that last little horn, that worldwide dictator, the Antichrist will come out of that. And that's who we're reading about here, I believe. Many countries will be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom, Moab, chief of the children of Ammon, these Arab nations over there. He'll stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. But he'll have, verse 43 tells me something here now. Look at this, verse 43. He'll have power over the treasures of gold and silver, and over all precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. He's going to control the worldwide economy. He's got power over the gold and we know from the little glimpse that we get back here in Revelation how that's going to happen, don't we? He's going to control the worldwide economy because anybody who won't worship him cannot receive the mark of the beast. And the mark of the beast is what you're going to have to participate in the world economic system at that time. So he's got the power over the treasures of the gold and the silver. I'll starve to death before I take anything in my body like that, won't you? But the tidings out of the east and out of the north, out of the east could be China and Japan, all these people over here, see, shall trouble him. Therefore he'll go forth with great fury to destroy, and utterly to make away many, to kill all of them. And I don't know everything there is about this, but I know that even back in Daniel's day, the prophecy says everything's going to boil down to this big war that's going to be over there in the ground of the Middle East. And Russia's going to be involved, and Egypt's going to be involved, and China's going to be involved. And boy, we're living in a day where I don't know if people realize how close we are right now when you look at the volatile world situation right now. We've got North Korea, we've got Russia, we've got the Chinese, and we've got Iran, all these people, or these little countries even now, are getting nuclear capabilities, and they all hate us. And you can see the whole thing is on the horizon of the whole world becoming restructured. How far out it is, I don't know, but it looks close to me. In verse 45, we'll finish up here. He shall plant the tabernacles of his palace. He's going to build his big temple, this Antichrist, in where he wants to be worshiped, between the seas in the glorious holy mountain, over there on the Mediterranean in Israel's where it's going to be. But I like the last part here. Good half a sentence to finish the chapter on. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. He's going to come to his end, because when he's thinking he's got it all in control, the Lord Jesus is going to come back in flaming fire, wreaking vengeance on them that know not God. And that's going to be the end. And you read over in Revelation what happens to him. He's going to be just like the devil. All of them's going to be cast into the lake of fire where the beast and the false prophet are. Satan himself's going to be destroyed. And then we'll have a good time here on this earth. It won't be covered up with sin anymore. See you next week, and we'll finish Daniel with chapter 12.